Hello and welcome to After Dark with myself, Kayise. Thank you so much for tuning in each week to hear our stories of healing. Today, I'm joined by two gentlemen who've chosen to change the status quo, and they've had a battle with trying to have access to their children, and they're here to share their stories. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us to come and share your stories of trying to get access to your children and obviously trying to be present in your children's lives.
Okay,
Solomon, I'm going to start off with you. You have had a journey that's been quite commendable. I'd like to first commend you for being so resilient in your fight and endeavor to gain access to your children. Could you perhaps give us insight and perspective into your journey and how and where it all started for you?
Thank you so much, guys, for having me in this show. It's actually a subject which most people, they avoid to talk about, especially in our country, South Africa.
Yes.
It has been a very, very long, painful journey of my life since 2017, after the death of the mother of my two little children. It all began when my late partner passed on. She had an accident, and a few months later she died. And before that, myself and the parents of the late were not getting along due to some cultural issues, religious issues, and even when they wanted at home to negotiate lobola, they couldn't even want to talk with people from other countries because they regarded me as a kwerekwere. You know, we can't speak to Shanganes and all that. But because their daughter loved me, I loved her. We were together for 10 years.
Okay.
So with the two children that we had, we could have had maybe 3 of them because one passed on.
Yeah.
But with the 2 children we had, one of them, we agreed with the grandparents, the parents of the late, that they can stay with them. It's a long story, you know. As Africans, children, they can
pass them over to grandparents
to assist
yes, in the upraising.
So the child could visit us during holidays. We can go and visit, even if there were tensions. But because my partner was still alive, then she could manage all those things. But with the little one, was staying with us full time. So when she passed on, of which it was on the 18th of May 2017, where she got really very sick after the accident which happened in February. When I called them to say the doctor has asked me to take her to hospital for head scanning and other tests, of course, which were needed. And the parents said, no, you can bring her home so that we can take her to Steve Biko, because we were in Middelburg by then. So I agreed, because we were not really married, but we had been together for 10 years and we never separated.
Okay.
So she took with her even the child. And arriving at home, she was not even taken to hospital. And when I called, they told me they're waiting for their pastor to give them permission to take her to hospital. And as we're chatting with her, because I could sense that she was even missing some words over the WhatsApp as we're chatting and over the phone, I could see things were getting serious. I even called the father to say, please, begged him, please take her to hospital. Because even if we want to pray for her, she needs to be seen by the doctor. And the father started insulting me.
Okay.
But their daughter said, Solomon, why did you bring me home? Because you know my parents, how they are with their religion and all that. And
so if I come in a little bit there, Solomon, there was a strained relationship with you and your partner's parents or family.
Yes, with my in-laws.
Even though that you had already had these 2 children and they were well aware of her relationship with you.
Yes, we had really some differences.
Okay.
We're not getting along.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so she passes away.
Then she passes away when I was at work. I was actually at work trying to get a loan to get a curator who was going to take her by force from the house to hospital. So I received a call because the previous day they told me never to call the house, never to visit her. So they then called me. I was just sitting with the PA in the office when I received the call, and the mother said, you know what, your partner hasn't made it.
Yeah.
She's gone.
Yeah.
I was so shocked, you know, because I was just there waiting to get the money, go to the High Court and get her to go to hospital.
Yes.
So from there, I said, can I just come and see my children then? From there.
And I would imagine that your
was,
first, I mean, it hurts for you.
Yes.
It hurts for you, but I can imagine
it was a shock, yeah.
Your kids.
It was a shock. So I said, can I come and see my children? They said, no, you can't. You are not allowed here. So that's where everything started.
Okay.
You are not allowed to come here.
Meaning what? You're not allowed to come and see your children. You're not allowed. Of course, not coming here means not coming to the home.
Yeah.
But you're not allowed to see the children, and
To
you're
the
not allowed to
funeral,
even bury. Okay.
Nothing. And I thought by the time they called me, I thought she has just passed on the same day. No, she had passed the previous day. Already they had been to her place of work. Imagine I was in Middelburg. They had been to Middelburg the previous day to her place of work, you know, to tell them, to inform them. I knew nothing what happened. Yeah.
So this is now 2018, you say?
That's 2017.
Oh, 2017.
Yes.
And then what, Solomon? How long then did you try and get access to your children thereafter? Because I would imagine then the funeral happened, which you probably could not attend, and then your children were in the care of their maternal grandparents.
I trusted the justice system. That's when I quickly thought I need to go to court with this issue and report this case. Before the funeral, actually, I wanted them to check how she died, because I believe that if they didn't take her to hospital, they need to account for that, because you can't just keep someone who's sick at home without taking. So the police were like, no, you can't do anything. You're not married. Okay. You know, that's their child. They said,
but I mean, if lobola was paid, you were. Was there a celebration?
They didn't want any lobola from the Mashangane. These people never wanted anything to do with me.
With you.
Yeah. So even visiting them, it was just their daughter sometimes being stubborn to say, you know what, let's go home. If they don't want you, then that means I'll just disappear from their face.
And so you take the route of going the
legal... I took the route of going to court.
Yes.
And I was introduced to a social worker in court from an organization which is called CMR. I trusted them very much because, you know, as we sat down, she said, you know what, Solomon, we will be investigating where your children stays so that you can easily have access to your children for now while you continue with your case in court. Also, because there were two social workers, I was in Middelburg, they said, you will have to get someone else who's a social worker in Middelburg, but we'll all work together. But as the court date was set for us to come for a hearing, I realized that the social worker from CMR, who was appointed to investigate on the other side, was now siding with the grandparents. Everything that she was being told by the grandparents, she believed it against what I was saying. Yes. The one at Aronot, who also was a CMR social worker, whatever I was saying, because that one said, Solomon, if you were present in your children's life from the beginning and you have never separated from them for 10 years, this is what the Children's Act says. Your partner is gone, automatically your children comes to you. You will have to make decisions. Yes. And if the grandparents want the children, it will be up to you whether you agree. You say, I said, that's fine. He wrote his report, and the first court appearance, he sent a report. And when I arrived in court, the other social worker said, I didn't receive the report from the other social worker, but now there are accusations against you which have been brought by the grandparents. Okay. I said, what accusations? Yeah. And I'm telling you, even today, I don't know what that report has in it. Yeah. But now I can get beaten pieces of it, because of late when I had a hunger strike at the Department of Social Development, that's where the minister wrote to me and said, it's because you are a flight risk. Even also the calls that they made to say, you're an abuser. you know. So all those things came in bits and pieces, but I haven't seen the report in the
Yes,
actual
certainly.
report.
And we're going to get to the conversation of whether or not you think the system might have failed you for you to go to those lengths of actually, you know, posing an 11-day hunger strike outside the Department of Social Development. Jacques, I'm going to break a little bit from Solomon and come to you. You are a father who has had a bit of a different story, but been denied access nonetheless. You're a father that is undergoing, you know, divorce proceedings, and you are in also a battle to gain custody of your children, or rather of your 8-year-old son. Could you perhaps also just give us and shed light on your journey?
Yes, I most definitely will. My case also started in 2017, March, when the divorce proceedings started. At that time, the child was 4 years old, and I was like told to leave the house and taken out by the police because my wife said she was afraid of safety. So I thought that might be the right thing to do and move on, move out of the house. So you don't want to start trouble and stuff like that. And I left the house, and a couple of weeks passed and there was no real contact with not either the mother or the child. And I went to court to ask for a court order to see my child, which was granted eventually after 4 times going to court. And then I got a court order, of which I saw the child once every 2 weeks under supervision for 3 hours.
So this was visitation rights.
Visitation rights. And I've still got the court order, which is actually ignored. Everybody is ignoring it at the moment. It's been going on for touch and go 3 years that I haven't seen my child. And the court order is just totally being ignored.
Being ignored.
Yes.
And I understand that it is a practice that is used to grant fathers visitation rights as opposed to custody or primary care access and things like that.
Correct.
Do you think it's correct that it is that way? Do you think you should be under supervision, you should be supervised to see your child?
That poses the question of why should a father be granted visitation and under supervision if he's no threat to the child in any way? The Children Act is clear. It says that 50% of that child is my time with me and 50% for the mother, which I actually was going for and trying to get the court order to be in that direction of at least seeing my son every weekend or second weekend for the whole weekend, and school holidays and stuff like that, which just didn't happen. And I've been trying to get the court order to work for me, but the system, by the looks of it, is so corrupt that even the social workers, the attorneys, the advocate that's appointed for as a legal representative for my child is also corrupt in keeping away my contact. They're using every excuse in the book to keep me away from my child. Lord knows why they do that, why they take my rights and abuse my rights to alienate me from my child. I just cannot get behind trusting the law system, the legal system, and it's not working for me. But it's written clearly. You know?
And you speak of a corrupt system. Do you perhaps think that the system favors mothers or women more than it does fathers? And like, just speaking from a personal view, why do you think you personally have been denied access from your child?
I wish I could give you the answer of why I am being denied contact. I know the mother did say to me the day that she said she wanted to divorce me, she said to me, I will make sure that you will not see your child ever again in your life. And it was also with a phone call to my mother also was said by the grandfather that he will make sure that we never see she never sees her grandchild again, and that obviously includes me as a father.
And how does that make you feel, Jacques?
Goodness, no, sad, heartbroken. I mean, really, if that is the evilness that you've got in your heart against a father or a person, and the legal system allows this. Even Solomon here went on a hunger strike to show the people, listen, I'm a father, I want to be part of that child's life. Went back to the police station numerous times, 7 times, to open a case of contempt of court against the mother, which actually includes the attorney as well, because the attorney has also written numerous letters to me stating that the mother now had a foot operation and she can't drive. That means she can't bring the child for the visitations that's on the court order. So they're using every excuse in the book to keep the child away from me. And I'm fighting, going back to court, going back to the police station. The police doesn't open a case. They send you from one door to the other door. You just don't get any help from them.
All right. And, the system is there to protect. It supposedly is there to protect all citizens and rights of all citizens. And we will fight until, I suppose, such day comes. But I know that there are circumstances that differ, case to case. Solomon, your case really, was something that we've never seen before. You, like Jacques has gone on to explain, you went to the full effort of going there to show your plight and show everybody concerned just how much you want to be a part of your children's lives. You went on to have a hunger strike outside a government institution. Do you think that the system might have failed you?
Yeah, the problem is the system. It has failed most of us as fathers. It was not only, didn't start with a hunger strike only. I did a 100-kilometer walk from Witbank to Pretoria to court before the court case, also trying to highlight the plight of fathers, and also to say, to raise the point, to say we want to be present in the lives of our children. The hunger strike came as a last resort to be heard, to be listened. And sitting there the first day, passing all the people passing by, I thought they will come and address me. Until the third day, on the third day, I was called in by one guy called Osborne Masilela. He's a senior official at the DST, who said, you know what, Solomon, I think we are pushed by white people to just sit there. I said, you know what, how can you say I'm pushed by white people when I'm pushed by...
Oh, no, so now it became a racial issue?
Yeah, I said, no, I'm pushed by my own children because I have been to court and the system failed me. And I know that the DST governs the social workers in the country. The children's court are run by social workers. Whatever social workers write down, the children's courts make decisions based on that. But now they've also created a certain relationship between the magistrate in the children's courts, with the lawyers in the children's courts, with the psychologists. Now there is money evolving around the system. This is a big web of corruption, which is hard to break. You can't break it because these people are connected. Imagine they will say you will have to see a psychologist who will charge you 9,900 rand. You need to get a supervised visit for 600 rand per hour. Really, how many supervised visits are you going to do? Because automatically when they say supervised visits, they've already passed on a judgment on you. That means you are violent, you're an abuser, your children are not safe around you. So you need to prove yourself to people whom they know, who are going to submit their own reports. So when I went for that hunger strike was to say, to show them that the system is failing us. Because even during the court case, some social workers, private social workers came and say, we want to do supervised visits for free for you. They refused because they have own within the web of corruption. So this is something that is very hard to break. You can't break it easily.
Solomon, what would you like to see change in the current judicial system or justice system that we have in South Africa, especially concerning fathers and the relationship or the access that they have to the children? And I'll pose that question to you as well, Jacques, if you could just shed light on that.
I've come to a point to say a child's voice is important, because when they don't consider the Children's Act, now bring in a child, listen to what a child says. Like in my case of late, I had unauthorized supervised visits for my child, one of the two children, because the other one is still going through therapy. I don't have even a report what's happening with her, because they say they actually admitted to say she has been poisoned against me by the grandparents and she doesn't want to see me. I said, it's fine, take your time. But now I need to get a progress report, what's happening with her, which therapies are you taking her to, but they can't give me all those details. But when it comes to the little boy, Seth, he was free to say, I want to see my father. And the boy outplayed them, outsmarted them. And the first day he arrived, it was his birthday. He was so excited along the pavement. Imagine taking my own child to celebrate his own birthday on a pavement on the street when I have my own house. But the boy was so jubilant, was very excited. And he was saying, we danced, and he was... Previously, they told me, your son calls you a stepdad. But that day, he said, you are my father. You understand? 8 as he is. So
certainly it's important to understand what the kids want.
Yes.
And do you think that this has a major effect on them?
It does. Absolutely, it does. You need to listen to what the children says. If the Children's Act fails, because the voice of a father doesn't matter in South Africa. Okay. So if you can't consider the Children's Act, listen to the child. So even during the second visit in my brother's house, Seth actually said to the social worker, you are investigating me, and I can see that my father is not comfortable. And the social worker said, Seth, you are very smart. How do you know I'm investigating your father and all that? The third visit, when she arrived at my place, she actually recognized even his old toys in the house. Oh, this is my toy. Oh, you remember that, Papa? You remember that? You understand? To show that we had a close relationship with my son. So, but now, realizing that relationship, the social worker now brings something else. I'm saying, you know what? Now Seth is gone for a week, after a week, and I haven't had contact with Seth. You don't arrange any contact. It now brought another story. No, you need to call Seth via the grandmother's cell phone, because Seth is not allowed to have a phone on his own. But Seth has said it, that I do have my own phone. Then he said, no, you know what? Seth's cell phone doesn't have a software and all that. How do you mend a relationship between people whose relationship is toxic? Obviously, they've realized that the grandparents that doesn't want anything to do with me. And also, I'm tired with them. I'm in a new relationship. I've got a new baby. I don't need to move on. But I can't leave my children behind because I'm their father. They need to feel free around me. But I don't need their grandparents, of course. Of course. I need my children, yes, you see, to have access to me. Yeah. So these are the problems that we're facing as fathers. And the truth, that's what they don't want to hear. The truth. At the end of the day, they don't want to hear the truth. And
speaking of the truth, Jacques, what would you personally as well, because you've gone the legal route.
Absolutely.
He had obviously taken a different route before taking on the legal route, but you went straight for it. And what were your findings there? And what would you like to see change with our judicial system with concerns to fathers gaining access to their children?
I can add to what Solomon already said. The corruption inside the legal system, starting from your social workers up to your attorneys, your advocates, they actually lead the magistrates as well as the judges. And I've seen it in front of me happening, where they lead the magistrate and the judge to what they want and what the judge and magistrate must say and conclude on whatever you applied for, which order that you applied for. And I just didn't seem to get anything right, because they were absolutely ruling the whole system. It's so corrupt, you won't believe it.
And with reference to the Children's Act,
and
perhaps?
The Children's Act, you can use the Children's Act, and you can make mention of the specific points in the Children's Act. It's as if those people just ignore it flat. They describe it as a process. This thing needs to go through a process. And then you would stop them and say, but there's a Children's Act that defines what needs to be done. And they just seem to ignore that. So changing the Children's Act, I don't know how we're going to do it and what are we going to say, but I think there should be repercussions for the alienator.
Yes.
And at the moment, I don't have any resolutions to any of the orders that I have applied for. Going police station, going to the courts, it's biased, it's corrupt. Those people are money-wise. It's money spinners around the block, all over, everybody.
And just almost in closing, Jacques, what have been your biggest lessons and perhaps maybe your biggest regrets in your journey?
Biggest regret was the day I walked out of the house and actually gave my child away, because via the legal system, that was the, how can I say, the border that I crossed or left behind with my child, leaving him with the mother and leaving the house. I should have stayed there and made my point. Changing the system, I don't know. Legal-wise, the Children's Act is very clear. The corruption and the bias of everybody involved makes it so there's no resolution whatsoever to the situation. So if everybody would follow the Children's Act, stay with it, it should work out. But it's not working. Everybody's making money out of this, and that's the problem.
And in closing, gentlemen, any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share to anybody who's going through what you're going through, Solomon? What advice would you be able to share for a father who's currently in the same journey and walking it in the battle to get access to his children?
Don't give up on your children. No matter what stumbling block you may encounter, your children need you. It's not their fault. They're being poisoned. They're being told what to say. They're being educated to hate you. Those are your children. Stand for them. Today, they may speak with their voice as kids, maybe insult you. They are not the ones insulting you. There are voices behind them, telling them what to say. So as a father, stand for your children's rights. Understand them, that they are not in a position that they want to be. It is your right to be a father. As Solomon, as a father of the two little children who are alienated from me, I don't need to be applauded for being a responsible father, for doing good for my children. It's their right, it's my right to be a father.
I hear you. And you have a book in your hand, I see.
Yes, I've got two books. This was written by Dr. Disa. It's called Unfathered. Dr. Disa is writing about the experience as a young girl of not being closer to her father. And she's trying now to amend the relationship with the father. I'm saying, I don't want my daughter. I didn't want my daughter to write such a book. But I know, more than 3 years later, my daughter is a story to tell. Because I've not been in her life for 3 years. And this is, it is called Boy Child, You Matter by Charlie. And most of the time, we have an organization called Amazing Days Network, whereby also we are taking care of children who doesn't have fathers. And I always take note of young boys. And when I listen to their mothers, I realize that The problem is the mothers who are pushing the fathers away from them. Actually, they trust me, the mothers of these kids, instead of the fathers. They will tell the children, your father doesn't do that and all that. But the kids, the boy child, needs the father in his life.
Certainly.
Because of the crime and everything happening around, most of them is because the father figure was not there. So
thank you so much, Solomon. We hear you. Closing words from you, Jacques.
I can add to what Solomon said. Just don't give up. There's a lot of WhatsApp groups out there with a lot of support and help legal wise where they can help us. The Father's Right movement is one of them, of a WhatsApp group that gives a lot of support, a lot of direction, what you can do in a situation where other fathers has been through already and what worked for them in a small way, because there's no once-off solution to alienation. If your child is being kept away from you, they're being toxicated against you.
Yeah.
And it ends up in serious alienation, and it breaks the child down. And it should not happen. It shouldn't.
We have unfortunately run out of time. I can see you'd like to add something, but we've run out of time. I'd like to thank both of you for being so brave in your journeys, and I wish you all the best with your efforts to gain access and obviously custody of your children. Thank you, Solomon. Thank you, Jacques.
Thank you.
All right, that was Solomon Mondlane and also Jacques du Plesis, who are both fathers who've been denied access to their children, and they've been here to share their journey. Next up, we're going to be talking to Charl Botha, who is the founder of family-focused law and mediation, and he's going to be giving us insight from the legal perspective of the topic that we're talking about today. We'll see you after this. And welcome back. Now, before the break, we did say that we'd be speaking to Charl Botha, who's the director of family-focused law and mediation, and he's here to shed more light on the legalities concerned around fathers gaining access and obviously custody of their children. Hi, Charl. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You know, we spoke off camera a little bit, and I think you are both familiar with both of these gentlemen that we've just had a conversation with. What is your relationship with them, and what have been your findings for fathers who have been walking a journey such as theirs?
It's a very emotional journey, and sadly, a lot of these fathers' judgments are clouded with emotions. Solomon, for instance, we've started assisting him with his hunger strike. We went out and we saw this guy is fighting a battle against a system he's not going to win. And it's true what he says. The courts, the attorneys, the social workers, a lot of them are not only incapable but also unaccountable. No one gets held accountable for their actions. And that's where the DSD and legal failures come in. Jacques, for instance, was referring to, he cannot open a contempt of court case. He should go to the children's court, have the magistrate issue that children's contempt of court proceedings should be issued, followed, and he should be able to open a case very easily. We just did one recently.
Yeah.
We are testing the waters as we go along to find solutions, because there are so many potholes in this journey.
Certainly.
And the emotions cloud a lot of the father's judgment. I know, I was there. I was one of them that fought the battle totally wrong.
Okay, so you have a personal story?
This family focus was born out of both our personal stories.
All right. Are you able to maybe shed light a little bit on your own journey?
Yes, it's just I've got two children, and ex left the house with the children, unannounced, didn't expect it. And I thought of, instead of sitting crying about my problem, let's start doing something about it and use the legal system to make a change, not only for myself, but for other fathers as well.
So, Charl, I mean, we've been hearing, stories of fathers who've been denied access, such as in Jacques' case, where he was told to leave the home and therefore leaving his child behind. In your case, your partner, the mother of the children, just left unannounced. And obviously, in Solomon's case, he has been fighting a battle with the maternal grandparents. What would you say is the first step that fathers should take in their journeys of trying to get access or custody of their children?
It's easier said than done. first of all, get the proper knowledge, what problem you're facing, how to tackle it. And that's very difficult because, unfortunately, attorneys are on the game to make money. So getting knowledge is it's better to self-educate, but with guidance and emotional healing, because a lot of the frustrations, and if you follow a lot of the followers on Facebook, you can see a lot of them are angry and frustrated and hurt, rightfully so, but the anger actually fuels the problem. The anger fuels the problem. It doesn't bring about the solution.
Yeah.
I find that, and I'm guilty of it myself, you're so focused on taking out the eggs that you forget that actually the target is healing yourself and healing your children.
Certainly. Do you think that most of the problems that we encounter have got to do with societal stereotypes?
It does, because Solomon is very correct. Children need their fathers as role models. We don't want the society to become a fatherless nation. I think that is why we sit with a lot of the issues we have today, is not having proper role models, or mothers not allowing fathers to be fathers. Or, interesting enough, it's not only fathers, we see a lot of mothers coming forward as well. So, and grandparents. So, an alienator is an alienator. What we found is, and I started off with focusing on fathers, it is a societal problem. Alienator is alienator. It can be mothers as well.
Yeah.
It can be grandparents.
Certainly. And you find that these cases are quite common?
They're very common. They are very common. They are so common that I think we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. Really, I mean, we deal with it daily, and with what we see, it's actually shocking to see societies in such a state.
Certainly. What do you think propels women to deny access to fathers who want to be present? Of course, we've got a majority of fathers who voluntarily choose not to play the role, but those that have taken on the walk to say, I take full responsibility and accountability of being a father, but I'm being denied access by whoever. And I don't want to say the women, the mothers, because like we see in Solomon's case, it is not just always the mothers.
Yes. I think it's bitterness, anger, and a greed for power. They like to control the situation and using the children. That's basically summed up in perfectly. That's what we see.
From a legal perspective, what would you say you'd like to see change in our judicial system?
Accountability of social workers, accountability of judicial officers for decisions made, accountability of presiding officers for decisions made, and proper education of all these people that are influencing, and I say people's lives because these people's lives, it's emotions, it's the children's lives, it's the father's lives, it's the family's lives.
Certainly.
It's a vicious circle. It's not only the father that's alienated, I mean, it circles out to the whole family.
Last words of advice to fathers who are in this journey, who are perhaps about to walk this journey, and they're not even aware that it could happen to them. What would you advise them?
Solomon set it up, summed up very correctly, and it's never give up. And we've come across cases where fathers wanted to voluntarily walk away to save their children the pain and reunite when they're 18 or so. And that's the sad part.
Is the damage not done by then?
The damage would be done, but then we've also, it's a testing phase for us. We see a lot. We saw a woman that reunited with her father after 16 years. And the emotions she went through, just by not being able to see her father. And so yeah, it's an emotional journey. It's tough. Hang on and get proper knowledge and join support groups. That's very important. There's a lot going. We've got the South African the South African Fathers' Rights Network. We've got the Fathers' Rights Network, the International, and there are various other smaller movements. And the only problem with that is be sure who you get advice from.
Certainly. And what advice would you give as family focused? What services do you provide?
We specialize in this type of situations: high conflict divorces, parental alienation, relocation with children, anything to do with family violence and where it originates from. Okay. So we try to look at where the problem starts and work from there. Yes. And do it unemotionally. It's difficult. It's very difficult to tell a father not to get emotionally attached or emotionally involved, but the emotions is a big problem.
Certainly. Thank you so much, Charl.
You're
and
welcome.
We appreciate for the time that you've taken to come and share your legal perspective with us. All right, that was Charl Botha, the founder and director of Family Focused Law and Mediation, and he's been here to shed light on the legalities centered around fathers gaining access and custody of their children. That's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to After Dark with myself, Kayise. I think the lesson we can all take from today is that we all need to play our part in not weaponizing children against any parent and doing our very best to unite families. Please don't forget to continue to subscribe and like the channel. I will see you next time, same place. Goodbye.